Most men enter the world of seduction like a blind man stepping into a maze, unsure, hesitant, and convinced they lack the looks, the wealth, or the lines to be wanted. But the truth is far more uncomfortable and far more freeing. You're not failing because you're unworthy. You're failing because you can't see the invisible rules. Seduction has never been about force. It has never been about effort. It has never been about emotional pressure. Seduction is the art of shaping perception. Robert Greene said it best. Power is not doing more, it's making someone feel exactly what you want them to feel. Once you apply that to female desire, the entire picture snaps into focus. You finally understand why so many men exhaust themselves. They give everything away before the game even begins. They try to be pleasing, thinking it builds attraction, when in reality it makes them predictable. They shrink themselves to appear interesting, explain themselves to seem trustworthy, reshape themselves to look desirable. And with every attempt, they lose presence, depth, and value. Because at the root of all failure is one silent mistake. Confusing a woman's attention with her approval. A glance isn't desire. A look isn't interest. It's simply her senses acknowledging your existence. But the validation-starved man interprets "I noticed you" as "I want you." And in that moment, he surrenders the entire psychological game. He reveals too much intention, too much eagerness, too much hunger. He loses before he even steps into the arena. Modern research confirms what the psychology of power has whispered for decades. In 2023, University of Rochester researchers showed that men who rush to impress are instantly rated as less desirable. The female brain links that eagerness to fragility, dependency, and low selectiveness, traits that signal risk, not value. Here is the truth most men refuse to accept. If you look desperate for acceptance, she categorizes you as too easy, too available, too predictable. But attraction does not bloom in predictability. It blooms in contrast. And contrast is the birthplace of masculine magnetism. This is why the man who masters the invisible level of seduction never chases attention. He provokes it. He doesn't try to be chosen. He becomes inevitable. And it is in this subtle psychological battlefield where 80% of desire is formed. Before words. Before compliments. Before any interaction. Desire is born in the invisible, in the way you hold space, the precision of your gaze, the energy that shapes the room around you. What you are learning is not a line or trick. It is behavioral strategy. It is psychology in motion. It is learning to read emotional currents and understand what creates desire and what kills it. Seduction is not hard. Playing blind is hard. You're stepping into a higher tier now, the level where her subconscious makes its fastest, most instinctive decisions. But before anything else, you must confront the psychological error that destroys men long before they realize it happening. Overvalidation. The silent self-sabotage where men behave like applicants begging for approval no one asked them for. When you treat a woman like a prize placed above you, you place yourself beneath her, no matter how confident you try to act. Your emotional signal becomes clear. You validate me. I need you to accept me. I'm terrified of messing this up. And no woman feels desire for a man who subconsciously asks for permission just to stand beside her. Evolution doesn't care about your intentions. In 2019, David Buss showed that women are hypersensitive to male emotional instability. Neediness doesn't read as charm, it reads as danger. High emotional cost. high risk, low return, and her instinct withdraws. Attraction is never the reward for effort. Attraction is the reward for emotional contrast. When you are self-contained, grounded, and indifferent to instant approval, you radiate value. You neither chase nor avoid connection. You move with weight, speak with steadiness, and breathe slowly enough to signal certainty. In 2022, researchers at NTNU found that men with expansive posture, grounded movement, and calm speaking rhythm are consistently rated as more attractive and dominant, not for their words, but for the emotional stability their presence communicates. Because women judge rhythm, firmness, and presence far before they judge speech. A man who occupies space without trying is magnetic. A man who responds slowly communicates control. A man who breathes deeply before replying signals confidence. And confidence always ignites curiosity. The application is simple but requires self-awareness. Before you speak, fix your presence. A deep, grounded breath. A neutral, aligned posture. A direct but calm eye contact. A slow, steady speaking rhythm. A response time that doesn't betray anxiety. Because in the first 30 seconds, 3 silent errors kill attraction. Over-explaining. Trying to please too early. Showing interest before she does. Remove these and your presence transforms. This is the architecture of desire, the code she obeys but never speaks. Female tests come directly from this structure. They aren't hostility, they're instinctive filters. She challenges, contradicts, stays silent, or watches you closely, not to provoke pain, but to measure your internal stability. Daniel Kahneman's work makes it clear, humans make snap emotional judgments from microsignals, slight hesitations, shifts in tone, tiny spikes of tension. When she detects emotional fragility, she withdraws instantly. The breakthrough is simple. Female attraction is not fueled by predictability. It is fueled by controlled ambiguity. Presence without urgency. Interest without attachment. Warmth without need. That is the difference between the man she forgets and the man she feels drawn to without understanding why. When you are kind yet guarded by firm boundaries. When you are present but never surrendered. When she feels your interest but never your need. That contrast changes everything. Contrast builds tension. Tension breeds curiosity. And curiosity is the first spark of desire. A man who reveals himself too quickly loses his edge. A man who leaves intentional empty spaces controls the entire frame. When she cannot fully read you, she starts trying to understand you. And the moment she tries to interpret you, she's already invested. Harvard's 2021 research reinforces this. Moderate unpredictability, not chaos, not manipulation, but natural emotional variation, significantly increases romantic pursuit. Men who shift rhythm, sometimes intense, sometimes calm, sometimes bold, sometimes reflective, ignite her attention and engagement. Her mind keeps asking, is he a challenge or a reward? And as long as she's asking that question, she stays involved. This isn't manipulation. It's psychology. To apply it, you need precision. Use strategic silence when she demands instant answers. Meet her tests with calm neutrality. No emotional spikes. No justifying yourself. No chasing. Place yourself as an option, never a beggar. A solid option doesn't plead for a place in her life. He stands with presence, firmness, and quiet conviction. A man like that radiates something rare. He doesn't seek permission. He doesn't collapse under pressure. He doesn't break under her tests. That is the man she follows. That is the man she chooses. That is the man who plays the game on a level most men never see. Now we enter the neurochemical reality. The biggest trap men fall into today isn't emotional, it's chemical. Every notification, every like, every tiny reaction gives him small dopamine hits. Without noticing, he becomes addicted. He starts chasing validation instead of connection. A reply becomes proof she's interested. Attention becomes desire. And soon he's living off crumbs. Crumbs that make him anxious, reactive, and blind. His instincts weaken. His timing collapses. His posture softens. And he loses the game before it even starts. Because a man living on micro-rewards does not lead the interaction. He gets led by her. Women operate differently. In 2020, Stanford found a direct link between male emotional stability and the activation of the female reward system during social interaction. The calmer you are, the more pleasurable the interaction is for her. Neuroscience confirms what evolution always hinted. Women bond with men who regulate their energy. Not men who swing emotionally like children. Attraction isn't fueled by wild intensity, it's fueled by emotional rhythm. Women are drawn to men who create tension with their eyes and release it with their voice. Men who shift between stillness and presence with precision. Men who know when to move forward and when to hold. This is called soft dominance. Not aggression. Not cold detachment, but refined self-command. A man who controls his energy creates stability and magnetism at the same time. In 2019, the University of Michigan showed that in speed dating, small male microgestures, a slight forward lean, steady eye contact, a deliberate pause, massively increased female interest within seconds. Grounded posture and controlled expressions trigger her evaluation systems. Her brain categorizes you as trustworthy and attractive. The opposite, agitation, rushing, insecurity, creates instant repulsion. To apply this, speak slowly. Use unhurried cadence. Let your gaze be a bridge, not a request. Hold half a second of silence before responding. Shift between solid presence and subtle relaxation. This controlled oscillation gives her the sense that you see more and feel more than other men. When you master chemistry, you master your impact. And when you master your impact, you master desire. Because seduction was never about looks, lines, or luck. It has always been about internal structure. Emotional control beats charm. Strategic ambiguity beats oversharing. Neurochemical rhythm beats desperate intensity. Jordan Peterson's principle applies perfectly. Internal order creates external direction. When a man governs himself, everything shifts. His tone, his posture, his presence. Women sense this shift before he speaks a single word. Everything here rests on 3 pillars. 1. Internal control over external validation. No begging. No chasing scraps. No surrendering your stability to gain affection. 2. Strategic ambiguity over emotional transparency. No dumping your life story on the first meeting. No over-explaining. No exposing your intentions too early. 3. Neurochemical rhythm over emotional chaos. tension, pacing, silence, presence, calibrated energy. When Peterson speaks of radical responsibility, he's describing the seductive man, the man women quietly desire. They don't want chaos, they want direction. Not emptiness, stability. Not exaggeration, mastery. Attraction is psychological more than physical. Energetic more than aesthetic. Women sense instantly who governs himself and who is seeking approval. They never say it aloud. They just choose, or walk away. The masculine path is simple, but not easy. Everything here must become daily discipline. Reading the room. Using silence. Setting boundaries. Acting from self-command. Average men react. Men who understand the invisible rules shape the environment. From this point forward, you choose whether to move like a lost player, or like a man who finally sees the architecture of the game. Before we close, the 7-second test. When you start a conversation with a woman, execute 4 silent actions. A neutral, grounded posture. A steady, unbroken eye contact. A subtle, controlled smile. A 1 second of silence before speaking. This sequence activates her subconscious value reading circuits. Instantly she recognizes. You're not desperate. You're operating on a higher tier of masculine presence. Master this tiny ritual and you're already playing in advanced mode. The rest is refinement. The rest is intention. The rest is deciding whether you stay average or finally become the man who knows how to win.